Going to go into a housing conversation and a developing conversation that is one that it's making its rounds in circles. Abdidahir Mohamed Sirad is our guest this hour. He's the Secretary General of the Property Developers Welfare Society, and he's here with us this morning. Abdi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to have you here this morning. We're looking at different issues today, are we not? But before we get into that, CT is going to welcome you today with a proverb that he'll tell you where he's got it from, and he will tell you what that proverb is, and then we need you to then interpret that for us and tell it what it means to you. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yep.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Djibouti. The wasp says, many trips to a mud trip enables it to build a house. That's what the wasp says. You see me taking trips to the mud pit. That's what I'm doing. But it enables me to build a house.
Yes. First of all, in Djibouti, we have Somali-speaking people. I also speak Somali. And if I try to answer that proverb, I think I will answer it in Kiswahili.
Okay.
Katika lugha ya Kiswahili,
yes,
kuna methali ambayo inasema hapa na hapa hujaza kibaba.
Do you have a Somali proverb that is similar to that one?
I can't recall.
You can't recall? You're right. 60% of the population of Djibouti is actually Somali.
Yes.
35% is Afar. 5% Arab. Yes. So you're right. In fact, let me extend the conversation. The Somali community in East Africa is actually enormous. There's an entire region in Ethiopia that is Somali. There's an entire region in Kenya that is predominantly Somali. Yes. So when you talk about the Somali community, you could say these are true East Africans. Yes.
Yes.
Now, having looked at the Somali diaspora with reference to Kenya, what do you think this proverb means? You said haba na haba. What does that mean?
I can also answer it with a Chinese say.
Okay, we've got Somali. Let's go.
No, we've gone international here.
We're trying to localize him, and the guy is already on the jet stream.
A journey of 1,000 kilometers starts with a step.
All right.
Yeah.
You brought it home.
Yes. Yeah.
First of all, with a kilometer thing, you brought it home.
Indeed.
Yes.
Or in this case with bricks, the conversation that we'll be having this hour. And we're looking at the challenges in the local housing development community.
Yes.
So let's start off with that. Yes. Are there challenges? Okay, but before we get there, let's talk about, when we talk about housing, local housing, community housing or development in community areas, and for those who develop, what are some of the challenges that we're looking at today? Because from the conversations that we've had in the past or the things that we've heard, the folks who live in those communities seem to be the ones on the complaining end when they say, well, people are coming down and they're taking down houses and they're putting up high rises, So obviously now we're looking at a change in things. What are some of those that we're talking about today?
I think the issue of housing has enormous opportunity, first of all, to start with. And when you look at the first city plan of Nairobi, which was actually formulated in 1937, you will see that actually the white South African who did that master plan did not envision some time there will be Africans who will be rising and actually developing this country, this city, I mean. That's why you find there was the highland part of Nairobi, that is the Kilimani, the Kileleshwa, and so forth. And then we had the middle part of Nairobi, the parkland area, Ngara, predominantly inhabited by our Asian brothers. And then we had the lower part and eastern part of Nairobi, which was inhabited by the colonies then. Some of the noise sometimes you hear about high rises and so forth actually are informed by this kind of plan which were there then, and those people who inhabited those areas. But one thing we need to understand is actually when you see a development coming up in Kilimani or Kileleshwa or Parkland, actually the new developers have not stolen that land. They bought from someone. Yeah. And people have the prerequisite approvals from the county and so forth. Yeah.
You know, what you say is absolutely true. Sometimes there are things you can't envision. If you leave out an entire community in your planning and you designate them to live and subsist in only a particular geographical area, it speaks volumes of how it is you viewed them even into the future.
Yes.
You didn't plan for that population ever to actually move into the areas that you had designated for your kind when it is that you people were in power. But then here we are.
And you know, it's such an interesting thing because it does not just affect infrastructure in terms of electricity distribution, roads, drainage systems, etc. It also informs the kind of opportunities that people access in such areas. So this is a very significant question. Now, my question to you, Secretary General, how do your developers integrate with the city planning
ordinances?
Ordinances, and also the departments?
Yes.
Because one of the things that I see going on is as if the city authorities will give you authorities to build, but I don't see the city planning working as quickly to catch up with the development. And how are you doing that to sort that issue, as well as the issue of the beautification of the cities that within your work?
Again, I think our members actually are the ones who are controlling, let's say, about 70% of construction in the city currently. And you find that almost all our members actually adhere to the rules and regulation of city planning. And there's no one who starts building a house without the prerequisite approvals and so forth. But on the other hand, the issue is actually infrastructure development. It seems that actually the kind of development we are partaking in this city is not tandem with the infrastructure that the government needs to put in place. So at times they lag behind in terms of the prerequisite infrastructure or public good, whether it is the sewerage system, whether it's the road system, whether it is electrical issues, and the most serious one nowadays, water.
And yet, these constructions go ahead. But that's what we're saying, that there's a problem with the infrastructure, there's a problem with getting some of these things done, but these constructions go ahead. So is that not a problem? Would we not rather say, okay, then let's push government or the necessary office to get some of this infrastructure in place that would allow us to then have safer developments later? And by safer, I mean so that if there are floods in Nairobi, for example, where that we don't have adequate sewage and there's a flooding, the flood comes in and takes basically away the current infrastructure that is not able to cater for all of this, then we're safer. Should we wait? Should we say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and build while government gets its act together? How does that come into play when we say these developments continue?
In infrastructure issues, I think there are two philosophies, and government can choose either. You can put in place infrastructure before developing a certain area. On the other hand, also a government can choose the philosophy of actually developing infrastructure after maybe things like housing or so forth starts. And the ideal should have been actually for the government to indeed go ahead of the developers and actually have the prerequisite infrastructure in place. Yeah.
So what are the challenges are you facing in this end?
Okay, we have a lot of challenges. Like we have the wind and wave against us most of the time. I think there's a lot of issue. Currently, as a construction industry, our main problem is actually cost of goods, cost of materials, which actually is becoming a challenge and it's becoming a hindrance. And maybe it will lead to actually a lot of problems for us as developers. For instance, when you look at steel in this country, it's way, way too expensive when you look at international market and maybe other countries. Issues of cement, the same thing. You know, for the past 3 years, we have had a construction cost increase of about, let us say, 80%. You know, we were doing in the year 2020, 2019, we were doing, the expense was about, let us say, 25,000 per square meter of construction. But currently, we are looking at around 45,000 Kenyan shilling. That is double the price. And when you look at the reasons as to why this construction cost is ballooning, is actually a state capture, what I will call. Meaning you have a very dominant player, a single player, who actually manufactures steel and cement. There were pallets which maybe competitors used to import, which they can no longer do. The government has discouraged. The same happens to clinker of cement. We have that problem. And you find that in the year 2023, we had a scenario whereby steel manufacturers in this country being fined to the tune of 338 million Kenyan shilling simply by, hoarding goods, exaggerating in prices, and so forth. And
I want to repeat this.
yes,
There's a period when steel manufacturers in this country were being fined.
yes,
Okay?
Yeah.
And they were being fined because of the things you mentioned. They were hoarding.
yes.
Okay? Go on. What else were they doing?
They were exaggerating the prices.
They were hiking the prices as they saw fit.
As a result of hoarding, then what happens is they are creating artificial shortage. Currently, as we speak, this January, last January, on January, we had the same problem up to now. What these people do is, these are a group of, let us say, currently we have one dominant one, plus 7 other manufacturers who come, under him because they buy the pallet from him. These people will sit down somewhere and decide, okay, what is your output? You need to reduce by 50%. Yeah. In a week's time, we have artificial shortage in the market. And then we developers, when we order this steel, we are being told we don't have them. We are lacking this and that. And by the time we are getting our orders, it is with an exaggerated price.
So you're saying it's deliberate in order to drive the price up?
Yes, it's a cartel
And you
it's
can't import
deliberate.
because importation is also prohibitively expensive.
It has been prohibited. In this country, our main problem is actually policymakers. Who at times you wonder whether these people are building this country or destroying this country.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You see, I went to a diplomacy school. Yeah. There's this institute in the University of Nairobi. It's called Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies.
Yes, there is.
I can remember vividly what we are being taught there is actually the art of perfecting how to bring investment into this country, how to develop this country, how to grow the GDP and so forth. And that's why I wonder with some of the policies the Kenyan government is taking. For instance, we are told now that now people cannot import tiles. They cannot import steel. They cannot import clinker. They cannot import pallets because of just one dominant manufacturer. Now, when you look at the cost of this product for the people of the Republic of Kenya, it is way too high. It's like times 2. Let me surprise you. When you look at something like tiles, there's one dominant manufacturer in tiles currently in Kenya. Do you know 1.44 square meter of a tile, that is one box. In China, it costs about 400 Kenyan shilling.
Okay. Same quality of tiles.
Same. When you come back to Kenya, it is 1,300.
So it's 3 times.
People used to import previously from China. There was a time and period in this republic where a container of tile will cost you about 250,000 shillings to clear everything.
A container, 40 or 20 foot?
Yes, but currently it is over 1,300. You know, the government is discouraging import, which is fine. But now, let us flip it. You have one dominant manufacturer for tiles. This fellow is selling 1,300 Kenya shilling a box. In the international market, it's only 400 shilling. Let us say they did an investment of about 10 billion Kenya shilling, in which maybe, let us say, they are not even paying tax. You know, when you invest certain amount of money in this republic, like over 20 billion or 10 billion Kenya shilling, there's a period which you are given a break.
Yes.
And you are not giving certain percentage of taxes.
Yes.
Now, my question to Treasury people and KRA is, if you have this dominant player who is selling something that's supposed to be sold about 400, 500 shilling, 1,300 or up to 1,700 shilling, what is the benefit to the Republic of Kenya? You are not getting the right taxes, yet you are discouraging construction and so forth.
You know, City, let me just sizzle the spice a little bit. Yes, Kenya produces iron ore. And it produces iron ore in counties including Taita Taveta, Tharaka, and Siaya. What I'm saying is this, that what you're saying is true. Kenya's focus on developing itself is offside, including the fact that, and you see, it's one of the pillars of this country, politically speaking, that we want to create affordable housing. Okay? Now, let me get to the core of my question. You've talked about policymakers. You've talked about the problems. What is the thing that Kenya needs to do, right from our iron ore all the way to the finished product of a house? What policies would you like to see be put in place so that this housing and construction business can actually grow, especially given that this is a major contributor to our GDP and a major employer of our young people?
Actually, to emphasize on the employment, to start with the employment, currently we are saying construction employs 1.5 million Kenyans. And by 2030, the projection is actually about 3 to 4 million people, which will be around 34% of the working force of the Republic, actually.
Yes.
You know, the situation we have with construction material in this country is, if I just flip it, it is like going to your home where your wife is cooking lunch at a cost of, let us say, 5,000 Kenya shilling a plate, yet you have an excellent restaurant next to your house in which you can actually have lunch for like 200, 300 shilling. You know, then it will be better to tell your wife, just stop this 5,000 Kenya shilling lunch so that we can have the 200, 300 shilling lunch. What do I mean by that? If you have an iron ore in Kwale, in Taita Taveta, in all these places, and this manufacturer is claiming actually to be using iron ore for the production of steel, then actually our prices should be at the international level, because that means we are not importing anything. We have the iron ore. The same happens to cement. For the past 2 years, we have an increase of almost 80%.
80?
80%.
80?
Yes, 80%. And we are being told there's someone who is actually getting the clinker from within this republic. So you wonder, why is these prices increasing? That's why I'm saying then, policymakers actually are holding back the people of Kenya. And we need to change that for us to succeed.
Okay. And we're looking at challenges that the market faces. How do you deal with, I mean, looking at some of these price wars, of course, but let's look on the other side. How do you deal with, I mean, look at Nairobi, for example. Many have said it has become cement city over the last few years. And everywhere you look, there's a new development. There's a new developer doing something new. Are you able to balance between the need for housing, like we say, and the need to also maintain, you know, some spaces where people can still be social in communities?
What we actually need to, first of all, appreciate is that actually the population of this city is growing. Currently, we are talking about 6 to 7 million Kenyans living in the city. And as you know, we don't have extra space for Nairobi County. And the only option we have is actually to go up. And when you look around the world, for instance, I happen to travel mostly to China, India, Malaysia, and so forth. You will find people doing, let's say, 45-story building. Currently in Nairobi, what we are doing is around 17, 18 story buildings. And there's nothing wrong with going up. The only issue is actually for the government to do catch-up in terms of infrastructure and so forth. On the other hand, when you talk about open spaces, space for the people and so forth, we as developers, what we buy and develop are plots belonging to people, individuals of which we buy from. So as a developer, just like any other person in this city who has his own plot, I cannot give out my own plot for people like, to have somewhere to sit or so forth. That is the work of the county. Yes.
I like that. I cannot give out my own plot for people to sit. Yeah. Let's go back to the issues. Rental prices are going higher and higher. People don't feel too comfortable with the rental costs. Mortgages in this country are at 2.5%, I think, of the total market. And then you still have issues with the cost of actually buying these houses. And one of the ideas, of course, that we push every day is having a way of affordable mortgages and affordable housing. How are you as an association actually reflecting on this?
First of all, this republic is an open economy. It's not a controlled one. And the issue of rent increment and so forth is actually, by virtue of what decides actually demand and supply. As long as we have a demand actually surpassing supply, of course, we will have these rental issues. And we can't help. There's nothing we can do about it. But as long as we increase our development, then you will find maybe rental prices stabilizing. On the issue of mortgage, it's like almost non-existent in this country because of the prohibitive percentage the banks are charging. We are talking about anything over 17, 18, 20, sometimes it even gets to 21%. So you'll find someone maybe in 20 years has paid like double or triple what they were supposed to buy for. And but you see, as a developers, and I'm saying this with certainty, that we have actually lowered the price in terms of cost, like selling housing prices and so forth. You find in areas where actually apartments used to go for like over 25, 30 million, we brought down this thing to about 9, 8, 10 million Kenyan shilling. Today, if you go to Kileleshwa, Kilimani area, there are even, you can get a house for even 6 million, 5.5 million. People have access to that kind of houses. So what we are saying is actually for government to come on board and try to help us. And I would like to go back to the challenges because we have a lot of challenges. There's one challenge by the City Council of Nairobi, Askaris. These people call kanjos. These people will destroy this industry completely.
Why do you say
completely? Kanjo. Those people will destroy this actually industry. And people at Treasury again, people at KRA have to listen to this very carefully. And also, Governor Sakaja. Governor Sakaja is actually giving us a big hand when it comes to construction. People have been fighting, saying that they don't need a high-rise building and whatever. But the man understands that actually this city needs to grow, and the people of this county has to be housed.
When you say that Governor Sakaja has been giving a helping hand, what does that mean?
It means, when we talk about how many story buildings we are building, there are some areas where people insist that maybe it should not pass 8 floors, 9 floors. But the man understands that actually, by increasing the number of floors, we are actually reducing the prices of houses. Let me just give you an example. Someone bought a plot in Kileleshwa or Kilimani for 100 million, a quarter, yeah? And a developer wants to do, let us say, 100 units. What is the cost of the price of apartment in terms of land? It means 100 million divided by 100. So what does that mean? It's 1 million Kenyan shilling. The same land, if let us say the city county were to say you only do 10 floors, it means 1 unit cost of land is 2 million Kenyan shilling. You go down, you say you only need 5 stories, it means 4 million, so forth. So we need to look at these kind of avenues. Now I want to go back to Kanjo. Kindly.
Yes. No, please go
that's
ahead.
a question I was about to ask. Beyond Sakaja, then to Kanjo. Yes.
This Kanjo, don't they report to Sakaja?
That's the connection I'm making.
Okay, it's a food for thought. Every department in this county has its own head.
When you say Sakaja is not the man, we're talking about the office of the governor.
I'm not here to defend him,
yes.
But I'm saying in certain areas we are getting help. And we have in some situation where actually it's being destroyed.
Talk about Kanjo.
Let me tell you about Kanjo. Those people will destroy this industry. And I know very many developers actually thinking of never buying again land and developing in this county because of Kanjo. These Kanjo fellows, especially the environment ones, there's this department in City County, it's called Environment. And there's this young man, the fellow is around 20-something years old, very young.
Clearly you have it in for an individual.
Yes.
Oh, there's somebody who's been irritating.
Yes, because he's the head. This man has like a couple pickups which he controls. Apparently, he invokes a very senior police officer every time. He picks people from site for no reason. He takes them to either Central Police Station or Kamukunji Police Station. And he asks for a hongo of around 200 to 300,000 Kenya shilling.
For what?
Yes. That is what he's asking. Yes, that is what he's asking. And this man, the minute you start challenging him, he is actually mentioning a very senior police officer in this county. Yeah, and I'm hearing he's a relative. So, if the county and the governor do not stop these people, especially this man and his crew, there is no way we can continue with this work again.
Allow me to ask you, Abdidahir.
Yes, please.
When we say that, just to remove all doubt, when we talk about Kanjo, we're talking about the city county council, right?
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is to ensure some kind of order. Many could argue many things. But when you say that they come to sites, because obviously you're at the Welfare Society of Developers, so you get these complaints.
Yes.
When they come to sites, what's the reason? Because we do know that according to the law, they must give a reason. If somebody is being arrested for whatever reason, what do they give reasons as to why that is happening?
Actually, what most of the time they do is actually malice. Yeah. It is an outright criminal syndicate which actually is there to make money. And they come to a site, maybe let us say, just for the sake of argument, let us say you offloaded cement. You have a small dirt outside your site. These guys will come, pick up people, throw them at Central Police Station or Kamkunji. You go there and you say, why have you arrested this person? The kind of accusations they write there, like, they write destruction of county roads. I don't know, destruction of sewer lines. This and that, which is just a pure lie. And at the end of the day, what they want is actually for you to pay that amount of money.
You know, I get the impression that you're monumentally miffed about this, but I want to take you back to something that is part and parcel of what we refer to as urban development or urban growth. It is the issue of zoning. For any county, for any government, for any specific area to manage or ensure that the growth processes, especially in terms of constructions or buildings, are managed in accordance with the larger plan that they have, there is zoning. Now, everything that you've said about buildings and everything you've said about some of the hindrances that you've received, I can only assume that these are things that members of the community that you belong to have experienced over time. They resonate with what others have also told us here in terms of some of the hindrances that they experience. However, if I take the argument back again to what we started off with in terms of why it is the cost of actually putting up units is prohibitive in this country. You're talking about restrictions of importation. You're talking about a near monopoly of materials that are fundamental to the building industry being controlled. The picture you paint is that the business that you are into has almost become untenable. It is almost impossible for anyone to... Yes. And yet you also mentioned at the same time that you are able to bring down the costs of actually owning a house. I want you to explain to me how it is, in the face of all these daunting things that you've painted, which actually should make it impossible for you to lower the cost of a house. How do you people manage to do that?
Okay, I think we need to separate issues here. You know, when, for instance, what is currently actually at least which has helped us is this. You know, 3 years ago, you could not go beyond 8, 9 floor. Yeah? So today, when we are allowed to do 18 floors or 19 floors, of course, there's a change of price in terms of land, not construction costs. And as things stand now, we can no longer reduce price. And I can tell you this. You know, the county of Nairobi got a revenue of about 1.7 billion Kenyan shilling from construction approvals in the year 2024. Approvals only.
Yes.
According to now what I hear from our members, I can tell you this, they will not even get 50% this year 2025.
Because?
Wow.
Because we are being pushed out of business by different players. Now I have mentioned the cost of construction, which has become a monopoly and a cartel. We have issues of kanjo, which is one of the most serious. You know, you will find Chinese actually deploying police officers on site currently. I don't know if you have seen or not.
No. I have not even heard of it. I'm hearing about it.
Yes. There are some construction sites which is being done by the Chinese. What they are doing is they have around 2 to 4 policemen standing at the gate just to discourage these kanjo guys and other people coming over and disturbing people.
Why don't your members do the same?
No, we cannot afford. We cannot afford. We cannot afford that. For you to have a police officer manning your own private business is very costly. And then...
It's costly.
Very costly. Of course, the government will charge you.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, the government will charge you. We cannot afford that. Now, there are other issues. We have issue of KRA. You know, most of our members actually are receiving, by the end of a project, you receive a call from KRA. Somebody threatening, saying he's on 12th floor or 14th floor. I don't know what happens at Times Tower, 12th or 14th floor. Labda kuna kichinjio mimi sijui. I don't know what they do there. And you know what happens? A KRA official will come to you and tell you you have made 100 million Kenyan shilling
How
profit.
do you know it's a KRA official?
How do you know it's a KRA?
No. We know. See, they call you even at the office.
You
go there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, people with badges. These are real employees of KRA. Now you find a developer, let us say, has made 7 million, 8 million Kenyan shilling, out of a project. You have a KRA officer coming over alleging that actually you have made 100 million Kenya shilling. And they want what we call corporate tax of 35%.
So they want 35 million?
Yes, they want 35 million. Now, there's no way these people can convince these people.
Is there no recourse? Because your industry is an exact science. You can quantify.
Yes.
Everything that you do can be quantified.
Yes.
So, do I hear you to be saying that even when you present such quantifications, it is not believed?
You know what? Those people are trained in such a way that, by the way, not only are they accountants, those people, most of them are also lawyers. They, in one way or another, they will fix you and they will find a way. Even presenting everything to them still is a challenge. And you find the next thing you hear is actually a member's account has been frozen completely. They tell you, we need 30 million from you. You start negotiating, talking, presenting what they have closed down your bank accounts. You don't even have fees to pay for your kids. You can't even buy food for your kids, you know. You can't pay your employees because all accounts have been frozen. We don't understand. Why is it that actually an industry that is worth almost 900 billion Kenya shilling, which is the third largest contributor to the GDP of this republic, is actually curtailed by the same people who are actually supposed to give a hand and promote it?
Are you saying, or do I understand you to be saying that the trials and tribulations that you're speaking of are only being faced by members of your association, or is it a wide spread problem that people in this industry in general are facing, including the Chinese?
But, you know, the Chinese thing also has another issue, you know. But I'm speaking
we'll ask the Chinese to come so they can tell us.
Yes. Of course, the construction cost, when you look at it, you know, a Chinese cannot also import a steel. They will have to buy locally. They are running away from these kanjos. That is why they have policemen manning their gates, you know, and these kind of things. And then there's the issue of these NEMA people again. NEMA, you know, NEMA in the year 2024, they refused actually to give certificates to developers.
Why?
Because of hunger. You know, there are certain charges of the construction cost which they charge as a fee. Now, when you go there, present your project proposal, and they tell you this project will cost this amount, and you pay 0.01% of the construction cost, you go and pay, let us say, 800,000 Kenya shilling. You present your receipts, everything. Now they say, oh, okay, we did a mistake. You know what? The construction is way higher than this. What we need is actually for you to add another 800,000 Kenya shilling. If not, maybe you can give us 200,000. So we don't know what is going on. Yeah. And then on the issue of challenges, there's a topic maybe even you yourself, you will be surprised too if I talk about it. For your information, do you know that Isli, that small place, is actually contributing 40 to 45% of the revenue of the county of Nairobi?
No, I'm not surprised.
Not at all.
Yeah, many people will be surprised. But I can tell you this, 45% of the revenue of Nairobi County actually comes from Isli. Yeah?
You know,
now, what happens in that place is this. Currently, we have a major problem with the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. Yes, completely. They have refused to give water to Isli. And for your information, when it comes to hotel and lodge beds in Nairobi County, 50% of it is in Isli. When we talk about shops, which pay, you know, the premium to the county, majority of it is in Isli. All type of businesses is in Isli.
You know,
much more than even the central business district. So what is happening, city, is this, and it's extremely important. Isli has the highest cost of land in the whole of Africa. Do you know why I'm saying that? In Isli, you will find 100 by 50, which will cost you 300 million Kenyan shillings. There is nowhere in Africa where you will find that.
Let me ask you a question. I want to ask you this question.
Yes.
What you're referring to as harassment,
Yeah.
what if someone said that was simply compliance? You're being told that these are the regulations and this is how you must comply. What would you say to that?
But what regulation does it have to do with the Nairobi Water and Sewerage and Company refusing to give water for 3 weeks to Isli now, as we speak?
You see,
all taps are dried. Does it have to do with regulation?
is Isili the only place in this town or in this city where they do not have water?
No. What I'm trying to say is this. If you have an area in your county which gives you 45% of your revenue and you are destroying, yeah?
You see what you've introduced now.
Fiti, can I just finish 1 minute, kindly?
No, take
please,
two.
Please.
Yes.
What happened in Isli was actually people started doing boreholes because they were not getting water from Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company.
Right.
Yes.
All those boreholes dried up. So what did people decide again? I will give you Ndu. What do people decided to do again? People started buying water from other areas where people have had what? Boreholes. And people bought trucks. You know what is happening currently? Initially, if you go there at night, from 8 p.m., you have this weighbridge pickups stationed in all access of Isli.
What time again? At what time?
From 9 p.m. at night. That is the time when water is being ferried into Isli, actually. You have the Kenha mobile weighbridge actually stationed with police officers, stationed in all entrance of Isli. What do they want? They are stopping these trucks of water. Let me just finish this. They are stopping these trucks, yeah?
Actually,
Because our time is going
almost
up.
Yeah.
This is what I want to say.
Yes.
What you're saying, and some of them are allegations, are things that need clarification.
Yes.
We're going to invite you to come again. Okay?
It is okay, but it's a fact and we have all the evidence.
No. We want you to come again.
Yeah.
And we will, if you have members of your association, bring 1 or 2 of them.
Please.
We will.
We want to have this conversation now, and we want to understand exactly what it is you're saying, because it leads to some very serious allegations of an entire community being marginalized.
Yes.
And being treated as substandard citizens of a country that they're
They
citizens
should be able
of.
to do business in.
Yes.
Indeed. And those are the conversations that we have here, to be able to look into some of these matters and really figure out exactly what is going on. So we want to thank you for being here with us this morning. Abdidahir Mohamed is the Secretary General of the Property Developers Society in Nairobi. Asante for being in Kenya's biggest conversation this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.